Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, we're checking in with Sheik Mainland. I've been a really big fan of the kits that they've been coming out with recently, especially their kind of HG size model kits that have been really nice. But this one is a part of their 3 minutes project, not 30 minutes, but 3 minutes project. So a little bit different one here. Small size mecha model kits, and this one does look really cool. Reminds me a lot of like something that you would see from like Armored Core, basically. A Ventus Vector is the name for this one we're gonna be checking out. And as you can see, it's in a small box, so not gonna be a very big kit by any means, but I'm excited to check this out. It does look really cool. So let's get into it here for today's video. So the box art here on the front does look really cool. You can kind of see the main unit and then a couple of other units there in the background for this nice render. Again, very small box here. On the bottom side, you can see an illustration of what the mecha unit is going to look like, front and back, and then the weaponry over here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but it does say there in both Chinese and in English. It says machine gun there for that, triple mounted active missile, and then here for the larger weapon, that would be a plasma assault cannon. So very interesting. On the ends of the box here, we have the 3 minute project logo there, some art, and then this is in 1/60 scale. On the bottom of the box here shows a set of 3 of them, and then here on the bottom, again, just the line art showing what that's going to look like, what it's going to look like kind of here as just like a CG render in a couple of different poses there. And that's kind of about it. So let's go ahead and pop it open. Now, as I'm doing so, I'm remembering that this is actually a set of 3 of them in here. So it looks like we're just going to have, see, 3 identical bags of runners, and so basically it's 2 runners per kit. So before we get into that, just to take a quick look here at the instruction manual, which is basically just the box art here on the front. And then a little bit here on the inside, just kind of again going over the different parts of it. And our construction is going to be very simple here, just basically 2 pages. And we do have like different connection parts where you can connect the weapon together in different ways, and it's just kind of showing you where all the hard points are on here. It looks like they are in different sizes. So some are 6mm, some are 5mm, some are 4mm. So that's kind of interesting why they would do that. Then it looks like there's also hanger parts, which I don't think are included with this set. I think that must be in some different set or something like that. But yeah, so that's why there's 3 units shown there on the front, because we get 3 in the packaging. So let's take a look at our runners here. And as I said, it's basically just going to be 3 of the same. And based on this, it really reminded me a lot of the Front Mission kits. So I've taken a look at a couple of those different Front Mission model kit sets there from Square Enix, and they're kind of very similar to this in terms of just the construction and the design of these. So I wonder if these are actually like from the same designer or from the same factory or something. So we have our A runner here in white, and just to give you kind of a close-up look, kind of what the details are going to look like there. They do look really nice. The B runner is going to be all here in gray, so that's going to be our joint parts, connection parts, weapons parts are on here as well. And the detail looks nice. So on a small kit like this with little details, you want the details to be nice and sharp, and everything does look pretty good. It looks like we probably are going to have like some hollow gaps and maybe some different parts here and there. And so for a small, simple kit like this, it's not going to be anything like too fancy, but it does look really, really nice. All right, let me go ahead and get these put together and we'll check them out. All right, guys, then here is what one of the 3 is going to look like all built up. Although all 3 are going to look exactly the same, one of the reasons why I'm going to strongly suggest to you guys in this part of the video that I would definitely recommend painting these, because that would then give you the option of painting them maybe slightly different if you want to keep them as a team, or you don't want to make them, related. You want to just paint, 3 different color schemes, completely different color schemes on all 3 of them. That would be something that I think would look really cool. I mean, the fact that you get 3 in there means that you have 3 different options for how you might want to paint these. Or if you're not planning on painting them, I mean, they do look pretty nice here straight out of the box. At the very least, could do with some panel lining and top coat on there for sure, would definitely help out, because you do have a lot of really nice detail in there. But I just can't help thinking how cool these are going to look once they're painted up. But we do get some cool accessories in here included as well, so let's go ahead and check those out. And so first of all, for our accessories, you don't have anything for the body at all in terms of any option parts or anything. No option hands, which would have been cool. And so hopefully maybe in other sets, I'm not sure, this is the first of these sets that I'm building, there might be option hands, or in future sets that would be something that I would definitely like to see, just like option hands where it's either a closed fist or like an open expressive hand, something like that would be cool. But you just have these hands that have a hole in the middle there for a 3mm peg. And then our accessories, we have 3 sets of course, to go with the kits, and it's basically going to consist of 3 different parts. So first of all, you've got this part here, which is kind of like your basic rifle. It can be just held like this, kind of underhand grip, or you could hold it like that, I suppose. It's really kind of up to you. You can also just attach this onto anywhere on the kit, with it being that 3mm
3mm peg size handle. You could just attach this right onto the top of the shoulder there, for example, or onto the backpack directly, onto the side of the hip, or anywhere where you have those 3mm hard points, onto the bottom of the foot if you wanted to, onto the back of the arm, for example. This could just fit right into here. And in this case, you could cut that peg down if you wanted that to fit in a little bit tighter there, closer to the back side of the arm if you wanted. But that's the first part. The second part being there's this kind of larger cannon here like this. Now, just for a size comparison, you can see it's definitely a bit larger. This one also has a secondary part right here that's on a hinge. So like if you did have this attached onto the backpack or something, it can come like up over the top of the backpack, or you can just have this as just a handheld weapon, just holding on to really kind of either one of those hard points, or again, plug it onto the back of the arm. But another thing that you can do is also then combine the two of these, something like that, to have the two combine like that. So just as an example, obviously there's still even more that you could do with those, but then the third thing is we're going to have these missiles. And so you basically have 2 sets like this for each mecha. So basically 6 of these parts that you have with this. And so you could, if you could find a way, you could attach all 6 onto one mecha and have one just be like your missile unit, because then we've got a bunch of different attachment parts here that you can use for plugging these on in different ways. And a couple of the examples would be just like this, a part here that again could either plug onto the backpack or the backside of the arm or the shoulder or wherever where you have the missiles attached together like that. Or another thing you can do is attach these to like the side of the cannon, something like that, not onto the unit itself, but onto the weapon, just kind of, again, combining different parts of the weaponry together to make kind of different versions of the weapons like this. So however you want to do that, you've got some options there. And that's really about it for our accessories, but that does give you a ton of options in terms of how you want to actually use those. So it's really just like a few things, but quite a lot of options, as you'll see once we take a look at some poses here in a bit. I'll show you a few of those. Just in terms of the main kit itself, I will point out that you do have these like hollow gaps here on like the back side of those leg parts there. For example, you saw up underneath the feet, it's kind of similar, and just based on the design, I mean, you're gonna have some like hollow spaces that I think, like, especially once this is painted and panel lined and you maybe do a little bit of weathering and stuff as well on this, those like hollow gaps, small as they are really not going to be very noticeable. For the most part, you're going to be like looking at it from the front here anyway, and it is really detailed. I think the one thing that's going to stick out more than like the gaps is just going to be like the ball joint joints there, which all of the joints are ball joints. So here at the ankles, it's actually a double ball joint there, so you've got like a nice range of motion kind of all around. The knee joint is also a ball joint, so not only will it bend like side to side like that, but then forward and back, a nice range there. The hip also a ball joint there, obviously, but the design of which will allow for a very wide range of articulation there, basically kind of wherever you want it to move. The joint between the top and bottom half of the body, of course, is also a ball joint there as well. The head's on a tiny little ball joint there, the shoulders, as well as the elbows, and then the hands also. So everything's on ball joints, which is great. It gives you a wide range of movement. They don't look the best necessarily, because then you have these very apparent big ball joints kind of everywhere. But the other minor issue that I have with all the joints being ball joints is when you're trying to adjust the pose, you kind of have to adjust every joint individually, because the range of articulation is great, but if you want like a very specific pose, you kind of have to make sure that everything's just right, and that you kind of, because like ball joints can allow for some like odd angles at like parts like this, the elbow, if it was like kind of sticking out, something like that, it kind of looks a bit weird. You kind of have to get it just right. So while you do have like a really wide range of possibility with this, it is going to take you a minute just to kind of get everything adjusted, and it's rather small too. And so just to note the size, I will give it to you guys in inches this time. Usually I like to use centimeters, but because of this is exactly just right about 3 inches tall, being part of like the 3-minute missions line, it also happens to be 3 inches tall. I just thought that was kind of funny. But just to tell you in centimeters as well, it's about 7 centimeters there. And then just to compare it with the recently reviewed 30 minutes missions Iglite kit here, you can see it's going to be quite a bit smaller. The size of the Iglite here basically representing a standard 1/44 scale, like Gundam kit in this case, so you guys can get the idea of how it would compare. So while I mentioned before, one thing that I would like to see in either other sets or future sets would be some more options for hands. Another thing that would be nice would be just like a very simple kind of display base, some kind of action base. I mean, I think these kits are small enough, they could make something that's, you know, like really simple, doesn't take a ton of plastic. They could have like one runner with like one small runner with all the parts to make 3 small bases on there. I think seems like that would be perfectly feasible. So like some kind of display base would be something I would like to see in either other sets or future sets as well. Obviously, one other thing with these that I think some people may not like is just kind of the lack of color separation with them just being molded in strictly gray and white. They're obviously not going to be very colorful, but I think I see a lot of potential in there for these to be painted. And I think because of the size too, they would not only be pretty easy to paint, pretty quick to paint, you know, just spray your colors on there, do a little bit of detail painting, pick out some of like the little mechanical details and things like that. I mean, you could obviously spend a ton of time painting these if you really wanted to, but I think if you wanted just something kind of more simple just to kind of make them look a little bit more interesting, they'd be pretty simple kits to paint up and pretty fun. Actually, I'm really looking forward to getting a couple of these painted up as just kind of a quick little projects. I think those would be really nice. But just adding some cool colors, some nice details in there, and some markings. I think these are just going to look really, really good. But even just as small little kits as they are, I think they make for cool little kits. The fact that you get 3 of them in a box is nice because you can have all 3 kind of displayed together, and you can weaponize them in different ways with the weapon options that we have. They're really versatile in terms of the things that you can do with those, having them, you know, being handheld weapons or mounted weapons or, you know, different combinations of the weapons. There's a lot that you can do there with those. So there's definitely a lot of potential with these kits. So these are the kind of kits that, you know, straight out of the box maybe aren't as like exciting or appealing as like a nice new HG kit or an SNA kit, something like that, but definitely worth looking into just because of that potential there. I think these can be really, really nice. So I'm really liking the stuff that Sheik Mainland's doing with these smaller scale kits, not only this series, but, you know, as we've talked about before, as I've mentioned many times now, I'm really enjoying the kits that Sheik Mainland's coming out with. I think they're a lot of fun, really cool designs, and this one I think would be really appealing in particular for like Armored Core fans, you know, with the design kind of really reminding me, particularly, I don't know if it reminds you guys of something else. It does also kind of remind me a little bit of maybe like something out of Front Mission as well. It does kind of have that look, but definitely for that kind of style of mecha, I think this has a lot of appeal there. So let me know, what do you guys think of this particular set? Is there any other sets from this series that you would like me to take a look at? I know there is another set that just recently came out that I am planning on taking a look at as well, of the smaller scale, like 3 minutes missions line, and then I have a couple of the little bit larger scale, kind of more HG size Sheik Mainland kits that I'll be taking a look at in the near future as well. If you guys want to check out some more for yourself, you can check them out at the link in the video description right down there below the video to USA Gundam Store. You got all sorts of Sheik Mainland stuff and a lot of other great mecha models, paints, tools, and supplies, everything there on the website, so check that out. And as always, guys, thanks so much for checking out the video here today. I'll see you in the next one. Later.